gamecock.org.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's time for the Rundown with Rob Sanders.
Well, we're waiting.
Well, welcome into the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Strap in, ladies and gentlemen, because I have a lot of information to give to you today. A lot of interesting stories that are out there, and had a lot of passionate debate about certain things that I kind of wanted to get off my chest today as we roll along here on the Rundown this afternoon. So I'm going to tell you the phone number. If you want to call the program, you are more than welcome to. At 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you want to join us here on the Rundown this afternoon, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. But strap in because we're going to move quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very fast stuff today. We're going to start with last night. South Carolina's women's basketball team advanced to the Final Four, but Josh Kendall, formerly of the State, now with the Athletic, tweeted something out saying, Jalen McCreary is going to transfer from the Gamecock basketball program. He goes along with Trey Hannibal. Now, this is the way that I look at this. Everything's kind of behind the scenes here on this. So we don't really know exactly what's going on down there with the program, but it's interesting that you lose two players from Frank Martin's team to the transfer portal in the matter of a day there. But let's understand this too. Right now, everyone's in the transfer portal. There's like more than 1,000 Division I basketball players in the transfer portal nationally. And a lot of that's got to do with the, I don't like using this term often, but the whole COVID year. Yes, you know what I'm talking about. The COVID year, where everybody's got an opportunity to possibly play somewhere else. So the NCAA won't require transfers to sit out a season. And because of that, we're going to have some issues. Well, not really issues. You're just going to have guys that have the capability to transfer out and be able to play somewhere else. Next year, for college basketball, it's going to be one of the more interesting years, I think, in a long time, simply because of the fact that you're going to have transfers everywhere. There are going to be guys that, and let's be honest, a coach like Brad Brownell has an opportunity to better his program with that. And he's normally, I mention him because he normally brings in transfers, and these transfers, will be a big deal next year for college basketball. But I thought that Trey Hannibal was going to be a guy that could really have an opportunity to do some stuff for the Gamecocks, but not so much. Not so much on that front. So you have that with South Carolina. You've also got, and this is interesting too, Clemson senior guard Clyde Trapp announced he's entering his name for the NBA draft, but is not signing with an agent. So basically that means he can return to play college basketball. He's keeping the option of returning as a graduate transfer open. All seniors have an extra year due to an NCAA waiver. So Clemson theoretically could get Clyde Trapp back for next season. Had a knee injury, the young man from Eastover, and that was part of his career, kind of, a bump in the road there. Averaged a career best 7 points and 2.5 assists per game this season. Trust me, Brad Brownell wants this young man back. They're going to have to find some scoring punch with Amir Sims probably on his, he's obviously done. So we have that. And I wanted to do basketball first because we are in basketball season, okay? And there is, you've got the whole thing with the Final Four. And I kind of wanted to get into that for a quick second here. Shout out to the Gamecock women. Dawn Staley you can. I don't think it's far fetched to say she's the best coach at South Carolina. Pick your sport. She's the absolute best coach there. What she's done with that program, taking them from where they were kind of an afterthought and not really an SEC contender, and winning the SEC is like getting up in the morning for them right now. So, yeah, they're in the Final Four, and they're a 3-point underdog to their Final Four matchup with Stanford. So, the women's basketball team getting the job done. USC Insider says happy birthday to Shane Beamer. What did Shane Beamer turn? What, 30 today? He looks like he's about 30. Tom says Staley's the best women's basketball coach of all time. Let's slow down a little bit there too. Yes, she is still the coach for Team USA. But I wanted to talk about Gonzaga for a minute, and I have to apologize for my the way I look at Gonzaga. I thought that Gonzaga was going to be a team that would have issues winning the national title. And I think it's because, let's be honest, how many Gonzaga games do you watch? You see them a little bit in the Thanksgiving part of the season where we're all still jacked up about football and conference championships and that. But you may see Gonzaga play Duke, Virginia. Their coach brings them, from the West Coast over here, and you get kind of a look at them. But they automatically leave your frame of thought because they're a West Coast team, and we don't pay much attention to them. Or I say we, I mean me. I'm just saying. There are people that are hoops heads that are like, man, Gonzaga's great. So I wanted to put this out there about Gonzaga. I think they've had 25 wins in a row where they've won by double digits. Think about that for a second. I read that stat. It's 25 wins in a row where they've won by double digits. Wow. That is dominating. I don't care what level of basketball you're playing. If you win 25 straight games by double digits, you are a very good basketball team. Now, there are going to be people that say, but they got that 11th seed UCLA in the in the Final Four, and that's just kind of paving their way there. And there's already people talking about, hey, Gonzaga, they don't have to play an Illinois team. They don't have to play a Michigan team who couldn't get there. They don't, the teams that might give them problems as far as matchups go, they avoided all of them because they couldn't make their way through the tournament. I say to that, everybody plays in the tournament. If you want to have the opportunity to play in the Final Four, you have to get there. If you don't get there, stop whining. I think I've got a bunch of Big Ten fans on my feed. The same Big Ten that said, hey, in the regular season, Illinois had more, as far as football goes, they had more. Was it Illinois? I think it was Indiana. Indiana had more conference wins than Ohio State, but they lost to Ohio State. And it was a close game, but we're just going to put Ohio State there, even though they really don't deserve to be in the college football playoff. This is also the same Big Ten that said, hey, you know what? We really don't want to do a season. And then they got shamed into having a season by, let's be honest, the SEC first and the ACC basically piggybacking off what the SEC did. The Big Ten is a trash conference. I mean, I fully believe that. I'm not necessarily saying the schools that are there, but the conference in general is trash. And I think some of the fans that follow those things are right there with it. And they'll be like, well, Illinois would have beaten Gonzaga, Rob. Michigan would have beaten Gonzaga. Really? I'm not one to buy into Gonzaga, but you know what? I'd like to see those matchups, but your team didn't do the job and get there. So stop whining about it. Move on, ladies and gentlemen, move on. The Pac-12, by the way, did a heck of a job this year as far as in the tournament. They had like 4 of the final 9 teams. They end up with UCLA in the mix there in the Final Four. I mean, let's be honest. We don't really know much about Houston. We don't know much about UCLA either. Just saying. We don't really have that ACC or SEC team that we're following here. So I was looking at the lines on some of these games. And the lines on some of these games are interesting. I think it's Baylor's like a 5-point favorite, and Gonzaga is a 14-point favorite. Think about that. Over a Pac-12 team, Gonzaga is a 14-point favorite. So I slept on the Zags, and I apologize. Did they like to be called the Zags? I don't know. The Bulldogs. Tom says, hot take for a guy who resides in the ACC. It's not an issue of the ACC, sir. We're talking about the Big Ten. Try not to spin things, sir. Blake says we can all agree on the Big Ten being trash. They are. I didn't say the schools there were trash. I'm just saying the way the conference is run is trash. Anyway, we'll take calls on the Final Four if you want to get into that. And I tell you what, it's the sun rises, the sun sets, and we've got more on Deshaun Watson. Yes, buddy. The more on the Deshaun Watson saga.
Like sands through
Yes,
the hourglass,
these are the days of Deshaun. It's pretty sad. Anyway, the latest on the Deshaun Watson saga, it's now up to 21 civil lawsuits filed against Watson. And here's the kicker story for me. The lawyer that is representing the 21 women in this case will not provide info about Deshaun Watson to the Houston police. Think about that for a second. You've got 21 people that have said, hey, this person did these sexual acts against me. They're filing sexual allegations, lawsuits against him. But their attorney at one point said he would share his client's claim of sexual assault with the Houston Police Department. However, he's decided to moonwalk like Michael Jackson. And here's what he said. Our team has been roundly criticized because these numerous brave women haven't filed formal criminal complaints with the Houston Police Department, although we have provided info to other organizations. Here is my worry. When I ran for Houston mayor against the current mayor, I called for the resignation of the former police chief. I was thus reluctant initially in these important cases to provide info to the Houston Police Department, at least while Art Acevedo was the police chief, even though my brother-in-law is a long-term Houston police officer. Mr. Acevedo has now left Houston for Miami. I'm not saying Deshaun Watson didn't do these things, but that's saying right there that you are so petty, not the women, the attorney that is representing the women is so petty that he can't go to the police department. If I'm one of the women that are filing these allegations, and I see that this guy's airing his dirty laundry out for the whole world to see, and basically trying to throw the Houston Police Department under the bus, that says a lot about this guy. An absolute lot. So I'm not really sure that I'm on the Busby train here. I do want the women to have their day in court. If 21 women have said, hey, something has happened, they should have their day in court. Deshaun Watson should also be given the same thing. Give him his day in court. But if you're not going to give them anything, they can't file criminal charges against him. So that tells me that you are out to try to bring down Deshaun Watson, bring down his reputation, put him in the eyes of people that say, okay, he did this, even though criminally you can't prove it, or you're not willing to let the police department do their investigation by giving them the information, or you're looking for money. That's pretty much it. So we'll take calls on the Deshaun Watson thing, and it is a saga right now. It seems like we have something new every single day. And it doesn't get any easier as we roll along. And, I don't like talking about it. And I know some people are like, but Rob, it's not a story. It is a story. On the sports front, it is a story because it especially with us getting close to the draft, because this affects, I think I did the math last night. You can find at least 6 teams before March 15th that where someone had written about them that was a football writer that said that they were trying to get into the business of having Deshaun Watson being their quarterback. So it is a huge thing there because you're talking about teams that have high picks in the draft and can maneuver around and possibly get Deshaun Watson. And some of these new rookie quarterbacks could be at different spots too. Deshaun Watson could be the domino that could fall on the NFL front. Now, I don't want people calling up or giving me grief on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good about I'm not taking the women seriously. I most certainly am. Let's make sure we put that out there. But on the field front, it's a big deal. It's an absolute big deal. If you're a Houston Texans fan, you're wondering, are we going to have Tyrod Taylor or Deshaun Watson as our quarterback next year? 803-978-1832. Tom wants to know, when am I going to talk about all the trades in the NFL's got going on? We can definitely get into that. Blake wants to know, looking at away games, which do you think will have the most restrictive COVID rules? That is a very good question. I think that certain conferences may I think it's going to be different in certain conferences. But I think the NFL, there was a story released yesterday. NFL is going to do 17 games, but Commissioner Goodell said they expect the stands to be full. Now, I don't know if they're going to have masks on, and a lot of it's going to have to do with the legislation that is set up by state law. I do think that we're going to have, as far as college basketball or college football goes, we're going to have a lot of things as far as it's going to be a state-by-state basis, I think, but it's also going to be what the conferences are going to do. I think that certain conferences are going to be more open than others. I think that as far as being more open, I think that the conferences in the South will be more open than the conferences in the North. I know it sounds like I'm talking about the Civil War type thing, but look for the Pac-12 to be last and the Big Ten right there with them. The Big Ten, by the way, is leading the horse as far as the Pac-12 goes. Whatever the Big Ten does, the Pac-12 will follow right behind them. It's like they can't think for themselves. But the SEC, they will, their commissioner will do the research and figure it out. And on the COVID front, if you look at the amount of people that can get a shot, I mean, as of right now, I think it's pretty much everyone 16 and up can get a vaccine. So if you're running around right now, and there are going to be people that get upset when I say this, but if you want college football to be where you can go into the stands, I don't know if it's going to have to be where you have your own COVID card or whatever it is saying, hey, I got my vaccine. I don't know if that's going to be it or not. What I think is that to get to a point where we're at herd immunity, which means 70% of the country has the vaccine. If you're listening to this show or watching online or listening to the podcast later on, go sign up to get your vaccine. If you are one of the eligible folks to get it, in our state of South Carolina, 16 plus. I mean, they're not making you get it, but that will get the numbers down to a point where we have the herd immunity from what I've read. And that will make things a lot easier on the conferences. If you want to be down at Williams-Brice and have the 80,000 fans and everybody with their towels and all that, go get your shot. I believe that on campus, as far as the students, they're all getting their shots. So I know that in the With my wife, she's a special ed teacher out in District 2. Their entire district got shots. They had let everybody off for 2 days. So with that, the vaccine ball is rolling. And to just say, hey, I'm not going to go get it. If you want this to, quote, be back to normal, go and get the vaccine. Simple as that. And it wouldn't surprise me later on if you're down at South Carolina and, hey, if you don't have your vaccine, you can't go to games. It may come to that. It may come to that. So that's an interesting question. Would you go get the vaccine so you can go to a sporting event? 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. We're going to take a quick break. We come back. We'll have more for you this afternoon. A story about Chad Morris. He's found a new job. We'll get into that when we come back. This is The Rundown. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. I am scheduled to get it Monday. I'm with Jimmy. I'll take those shots all the time. You're right about that. But yes, I am going to get it. And I'm going to be honest with you. I was one of those people that was like, man, I don't know if I want to do this because they haven't had enough time to test the vaccine and everything else. But I think with the way that things were, the research and development on this around the world and the way that that's come about, I think that I feel just as safe with that as I would do a flu shot. Now, I am a person that with the flu, they never seem to get it right. So I stopped taking the flu vaccine. But I will be getting my coronavirus vaccine on Monday. And once again, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. You can do whatever it is that you want to do. But I'm just saying, if you want to get back to a point where I can walk up to you and we can shake hands and people won't cringe, that kind of thing, yeah, I think go get the vaccine. go, especially if you're one of those people, I want things back, then go get the vaccine. Go and get it. My goodness. I explained to one of my friends who's big into politics. I'm like, the vaccine was under the Trump administration. And he goes, I didn't think about that. Now I'll go. That's funny. Absolutely funny. Jerome thinks people would boycott games. Yeah, they might. They absolutely might. You never know. Well, welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial. Folks ask if I was getting the vaccine. Yeah, I'm scheduled to pick it up on Monday when I go visit my doctor. And Blake says, tell us you're getting it because COVID was rough for you. Look, when I had COVID in July, be completely honest with you, I'm one of those people that I don't miss a day of work. I had about, I think, a 3-4 day window where I walked downstairs from my house, and from the top of my house to the ground floor. And I don't have this big, huge house, but I was completely out of breath. Now, I know some people are like, yeah, Rob, you're a chunky guy, blah, blah, blah. I'm a guy that works out a lot. I walk probably 2 or 3 miles a day, and I lift weights. Just because I'm chunky means that I don't make good food choices. But as far as being able to breathe, I've never had problems with that. My journey with COVID was really tough. I had about a 4-day window there where it was really bad. I mean, it was really bad. I was had issues with the taste and smell, and then I had issues with not being able to breathe at a very good rate. Um, and it was I wouldn't wish it on anyone because I had some of the fever with it, and it was just bad. So if I know that I can go and take this vaccine, and from what I've read, it's 100% effective, and I'm not going to get it again, yeah, I would do that. I definitely would do that. And you should too. 803-978-1832. And I think people that didn't get it, they may not appreciate it as much. The people that say that it's just like the flu, it's not. It's really not. The other part that really bugged me is the whole quarantine thing, because not being able, I'm a guy that, as I said, I don't miss work much. Not being able to leave my house was hard. The whole 2 week window was just really, really tough. So I don't get paid by the folks that make the vaccine, but if you can get the vaccine, just go ahead and get it. The less time we have to wear the face mask and everything else is once everyone says, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and get the vaccine. Anyway, I don't like talking health here on the rundown. It's not like I'm a doctor. It's not like I can just, be someone that can give you medical advice, because I'm really not into all that. But I do think, as far as the society thing goes, the best thing to do is just get the vaccine. Get the vaccine, man. Not going to be too crazy tough. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832 is the number to call. Would you get a vaccine to go to a sporting event? I think that certain jobs are going to make people have to get them. I know that I think with schools, they're going to have, you're going to have to get it. And I think that I don't know if they're going to make us do it here. I don't know. But in the grand scheme of things, just go take the shot. My goodness. All right. So today on the rundown, I've been doing I've done wide receivers, running backs, and quarterbacks. So I thought we'd go to the defensive side of the ball today. And I've got linebacker rankings. Yes. My top 5 linebacker rankings heading into the NFL draft. So we'll talk about that when we come back. That's our list this afternoon. So I'm going to do inside linebackers. I may do outside linebackers later on, but inside linebackers today. So that'll be the list here when we come back. If you, I think my number one quarterback was Trevor Lawrence. Number one wide receiver was Jamar Chase. Number one running back was Najee Harris. So there you go with that. But we'll have our linebackers in when we come back here on the rundown. Linebackers, I don't know if they're going to be something that a lot of them are going to be drafted, but we'll see. We'll definitely see on that. But that's the list this afternoon. I've also got the story on Chad Morris. He has a new head coaching job. Talk about a fall from where it looked like the sky was going to be the limit for him. So then all of a sudden, not so much. We'll tell you where Chad Morris has ended up. And we'll do that when we come back here on the rundown. Don't forget, Lawton Swan from Clemson Sports Talk. He's here from 4 to 6, and he can take your calls. That actually, I don't know if you can take calls, but you can interact with him at Clemson Sports. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Podcast for this show will be up at 5 o'clock. By the way, shout out to the people that tons of downloads on the quarterback rankings the other day. My goodness, lots of feedback on that. So appreciate that as always. Podcast is up at 5 o'clock. However you get your favorite podcast, you can find the rundown. My name is Rob Sanders. We'll be right back. Right. Yeah. Hey, man, I appreciate it. If I find something out, I'll let you know. All right. Thanks. Bye. I I understand what you're saying over there, Jerome, but I'm also in the camp of and I know this sounds kind of silly too, but I think I mentioned this yesterday. Nobody's getting tested for COVID. Seriously. So, especially in the southern states, I read something where nobody wants to get tested for it anymore because they don't want to be hammered with the hey, stay home for 14 days. So there's that too.
It's time for the list.
The list this afternoon here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. These are my top five linebackers in the NFL draft. Prospects here, I guess, is the best term to go with. These are the five guys. If you told me, hey, Rob, I want you to draft linebackers for me, this is the way to go. All right, so here we go. We will start, obviously, with, and let's make sure I've got, see, I'm having issues today, ladies and gentlemen. Let's try again.
Number 5.
Carlton Marshall from Troy. Now, he's one of the best stories in the country, one of the best players. He's 5'10", 216 pounds. He's a little bit undersized, but he's athletic. He's also very vicious, and he can also do some coverage. So there's that too. I like him coming out of Troy as my number 5 running back. Or excuse me, my number 5 linebacker.
Number 4.
Number 4, Chaz Surratt from North Carolina. This is a guy that was a quarterback for the Tar Heels and made the transition over when, hey, you know, it wasn't really working out that well for him. But he ended up being one of the best linebackers in the country, definitely one of the best linebackers in the ACC, and he will light you up. He's very, very athletic. And with time with quarterback, I mean, he sees the field just differently. He's able to pick up reads really quick if you watch him. But Chaz Surratt is at number 4.
Number 3.
Number 3 on the list this afternoon here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Nick Bolton from Mizzou. Now, I know that people are like, man, Nick Bolton is one of the most productive players in the SEC, had 100 tackles. And I think that He's at about 6 foot tall and just a hair over 230 pounds, but he moves sideline to sideline very, 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 very quickly. And I like him a lot as far as that, just because of his ability to cover the field. So he is at number 3 for me here today in my top linebackers.
Number 2.
Dylan Moses. You know, he is, I think, some people say he's the most like day one starter on the on my list anyway. You know, he understands different routes and he's able to check off and do things that he's supposed to. He did have that knee injury though. I think that drops him down just a little bit. But at number 2, somebody's going to get a steal from him when he gets drafted.
And number 1.
Micah Parsons. You know, I think that he may be the highest rated defensive player in the draft. So this is a guy that wasn't really recruited by he was initially recruited to Penn State to be like an edge rusher, but they moved him to linebacker, and he's one of the best players in the country. 6'3", 245 pounds. So he's got the size, the athletic ability. He can also get after the quarterback. And I think that he may be the first defensive player drafted. Would not be that far-fetched to see Micah Parsons go number 1. Not number 1, but number 1 as far as the defensive players go. A couple of guys that were right there in the mix there, but not quite. Monty Rice at Georgia, tackling machine for the Bulldogs last season. It's kind of a read and react type player, but he's gonna make himself some money. And Jabril Cox. Here's the an interesting thing with him. Senior Bowl director, and I wrote this down, and former NFL scout Jim Nagy called Cox a fast and athletic matchup backer with day 2 tools and upside. So he's 6'4", 230 pounds, and he can cover a lot of ground. So Jabril Cox didn't make my top 5, but someone will get him, and he's going to make some plays. There's the list for you. We try to have a list every day. Sometimes, especially during the offseason, it's tough to come up with a list, but we try to have a list every day, and it's generally 5 things that are rolling through my head. But right now we're doing NFL draft stuff. Tomorrow we may do defensive lineman or offensive lineman. I don't know. But that's what we've got on the list this afternoon, top 5 linebackers. If I'm off, feel free to let me know. Blake said he agreed with me on Lawrence and Harris, but he said Chase may not be the best playmaker available at number 1 as far as the wide receivers go. You know, you can make that argument, but I mean, which way are you going to go? Are you going to go Waddle? Are you going to go Devontae Smith? For some reason, Devontae Smith, he's kind of dropping in some draft circles because they think he's too skinny. I mean, I don't get all that, but they think he's too skinny. So we'll keep an eye on that. Jimmy says, marbles are rolling around in my head. So this show's ADD, man. You know, we go from one thing to another in a matter of seconds. But if you don't take Jamar Chase at 1, I mean, who would you go with? I mean, it's a fair thing to look at. 803-978-1832, 803-978. Well, 1832 is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the rundown. Everybody remembers Chad Morris, right? This is one of those interesting stories where Chad Morris was like an offensive coordinator at Tulsa, and then he gets the job with Clemson and turns Clemson's offense around. Tigers' offense was kind of flat. He comes in, and there's records broken all over the place. And he ends up leaving Clemson to take the head coaching job at SMU. And then he leaves SMU to take the head coaching job at Arkansas. He does okay at SMU. Not like lighting the world on fire, but okay. He goes to Arkansas, and Arkansas turns into a gong show. I mean, just really bad. And, of course, he was fired from there. He ended up being the offensive coordinator at Auburn. And now, ladies and gentlemen, he's going back to his roots. He will take over the Allen Eagles, which is a team in Tyler, Texas. He's going to be the high school coach there. Talk about and once again, I'm not a coach, but when he was at Clemson, he was thought to be the best offensive coordinator in the country. He won the assistant coach of the year award in 2013. Yeah, the National Assistant Coach of the Year award in 2013. So it went from that in a span of 8 years to being a head coach at SMU and at an SEC school, then an offensive coordinator at an SEC school, to now you're going to be doing high school coaching. Wow. And of course, he probably doesn't have to worry about any money. I'm sure Arkansas paid him a fat sum to not coach their football program anymore. But Chad Morris kind of falling from the ranks of the college coaches. He is now at a high school in Tyler, Texas. The Allen Eagles. Okay, terrific. I wonder if Allen's one of those teams, by the way. They are from what I've read, they're a powerhouse program. I don't know what makes you a powerhouse program in Texas, but apparently he's taking over a powerhouse program. So good luck to Chad Morris, who was once here, but now he's gone. More of the rundown when we come back. We will wrap up today's show here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Smith County, Alabama, or Texas? Okay. Y'all forgive me. I don't know much about Allen, Texas, but that's where he's going to go. Blake, what up? What you got, Blake? Oh, new Robin Jackpot show tonight. Hi. Hey, I've got a Patriots story for you, Tom, in just a second. You guys could like the video up there. That'd be awesome. Just click the little like button. Help the old channel out here. Yeah, Newman is we talked about Prosper last week, but we talked about Newman leaving too, but Newman announced where he's going today. I'll mention that when we come back. Final segment of the rundown this afternoon here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Appreciate you guys checking out the show today. One quick thing. The folks from the chat room wanted to ask a couple questions. We got those. We'll take those now. We'll take yours on the phone as well at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. SCU said Prosper and Newman. He's talking about, of course, the two Clemson players. Both are leaving the Clemson basketball program. Yeah, John Newman III today put out on social media last night that he's going to UNC Greensboro. He's a guy who went to UNC Greensboro Day, the day school there, and now he's going to play the college game there. He should have 2 years of eligibility left as far as with his time at UNC Greensboro. And I don't know what happened, but he kind of fell out of the limelight there a little bit at Clemson, went from like 31 minutes down to 15 minutes. You can make an argument that Coach Brownell was more happy with Alamir Dawes and Nick Honor and Clyde Trapp and those guys there. So, yeah, there's that. Jimmy says, why wouldn't you show support for Frank Martin to try and avoid any more players leaving? I haven't been on the train to say Frank Martin should go. I think that firing Frank Martin would be not very bright. So, I don't know about all that. And then someone asked me about, there was one that asked me about the, who I think the Panthers are going to draft. So I've got some, I'm pulling up, I did like my first little mock draft, and I'm going to try to see who I had the Panthers going to, taking with their pick. Let's see if I can scroll through my notes here. I've got the Falcons taking Kyle Pitts, by the way. So there's that. Oh, yeah, I think the Panthers, since they can't get Deshaun Watson and they're not really happy with Teddy Bridgewater, I think they're going to use this year as kind of a gap year, meaning they're kind of stuck with Bridgewater's contract anyway. But I think that they'll have Bridgewater start the first 5 to 7 games. And if they take off and they're 5-1 in those 6 games, 5-2, then they may just let him roll on out. But if they start 2-5, I think they're going to draft the young man Trey Lance from North Dakota State. And I think that they're going to have like that kind of year where he'll have a season or a half season to have the opportunity to learn behind Bridgewater. And then it'll be his team for the second half of the season. And then they'll move from there. So I think that's what's going to happen there with them. I like Trey Lance there. I think that the Bengals are going to get Jamar Chase and pair him up with Joe Burrow. There's lots of people, too, that are on the Justin Fields train of like maybe Fields will be the guy for the Panthers. So we'll see how that works out. I'm not sure if that'll work, but we shall see. I think that, and judging by his workout last week, South Carolina fans, I think J.C. Horn is going to get picked probably 12th by the Eagles. They need some help in the secondary, and that's a guy that could really help them. So you could have a Gamecock drafted in the first 12 picks, in my opinion, with J.C. Horn. So with some of the picks that I put together, I think Mac Jones is going to go to the Patriots, even though Belichick didn't look exactly on fire with his workout the other day. I like Elijah Moore going to the Washington football team. And I got, what was there, like 2 other ones? Oh, Travis Etienne. I think he'll get picked up by the Steelers. They got, they're letting Connor go. So the Steelers need a running back. I think they're going to go with Travis Etienne and try to make him the combo back that they had before, that they used to have. So there's that too. By the way, the Jaguars have 2 picks in the first round. So I think they're going to take Lawrence, and then I think they may go wide receiver with that 25th pick. So there you go. There's some stuff with my mock draft that I kind of put together. Tyler Crowder, host of Kicking It with Crowder, is big on the NFL stuff. I may get him on as we get closer to the draft because he's like, Tyler's one of those guys like you go to his house and he's got like the big whiteboard and he's like writing, all kind of stuff on it. That's the kind of guy Tyler is. He's kind of a nerd with all that stuff. So, yeah, get somebody on that knows a lot more about that stuff. I just have my opinion on fits. This will fit here. That will fit there. The guy that, there's been a lot of talk about some people don't like Justin Fields now, as far as some of the scouts do. Fields came out was it yesterday or maybe it was today and said, I'm the best quarterback in the draft. I admire your what is the term that I can use here? I admire that you love your ability, sir. There we go. I don't necessarily agree with you, but if you think you're the best, that's awesome. Confidence will not be an issue with Justin Fields. And he's got the capability to do all kind of stuff and the athletic talent to do a lot of things too. The 4.4 40. He is an athlete, which we kind of knew that anyway. But still, he said he's the best quarterback in the draft. That's kind of funny. Kind of funny. I think I have him at third. What do I have him in my list? I can look at my list. I think he's third on my list. Tomorrow on the rundown, we're going to talk. Tomorrow's opening day in baseball, by the way. I tried to find like a fantasy draft to get in, but yeah, it's like, I don't know if anybody's playing fantasy baseball anymore. I'm sure they are to a point, but not so much. But we'll have full coverage of that tomorrow with the voice of the Columbia Fireflies. John Kostis joins us tomorrow as we'll talk a little baseball. We have a Royals affiliate here in Columbia now, which is good because I hated going to the games when they were a Mets affiliate because I felt like I was cheering against my Braves. Yeah, it was great when the Rome Braves came here to play because I would literally be booing the home team. Pretty funny. But baseball talk tomorrow with the gentleman from the Columbia Fireflies. Jefferson Pilot Sports. Okay, that's what a SCU puts out there. Anyway, we'll have that tomorrow. Then Friday, we'll have on, we'll look at the baseball series that are coming up for both South Carolina and Clemson. Clemson, by the way, lost last night to Georgia 2-0. The Tigers had won like 6 in a row, though. And they're currently at 500 in ACC play, which when they were 3-6 or whatever it was, people were looking at the point where it was like, maybe Clemson's not going to do that well. I still think Clemson's going to make the tournament, but man, they're playing a lot of freshmen up there. South Carolina just keeps humming along, man. They just keep humming along. What a good job that Coach Kingston's done down there. Because I think there were folks that were kind of upset with him after the past couple of seasons, but he seems to be getting it right now. All right, so Lawton Swan from Clemson Sports Talk, as always, is next. You can follow him on Twitter. He is at Clemson Sports. You Gamecock fans, you know you love the show. I know you Gamecock fans are in the closet. You're all watching Clemson Sports Talk, listening, however. Yeah, follow him on Twitter at Clemson Sports. I'm on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. Podcast up at 5 o'clock. Blog page, full write-up on Chad Morris is up there. My name is Rob Sanders. I'll be back at it tomorrow right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Hey, guys. Appreciate you. You guys are funny over there. Sometimes I don't get some of the stuff that's going on in the chat room. It's not like I'm dumb, but anyway. New Robin Jackpot show tonight. Look forward to seeing you guys over there. We'll talk to you guys later on.